Good morning, Mr. and Mr. Smith. I wanted to thank you for coming today, and I know you're interested in signing your son up for our very awesome program that we have here. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Eric Castillo, and I've been an instructor for the last 15 years. My background includes the military. I was in the military for 10 years. I went to school to study to be on a nuclear submarine. And then after that, in the reserves, I studied to be with the construction battalion out of Great Lakes. So I had the learning of how to be out at sea and how to fight at war. And then I learned how to be on land and to fight while we're at war. On top of that, when I was younger, I went to a magnet school in between first grade and sixth grade. And there we learned, the school was designated to teach you a second language, which was Spanish. They had an open forum where in the afternoons you did the Spanish group and in the mornings you did English, but it was all in type of groups. It wasn't really classroom based, it was more inviting the kids into the groups to learn. So this is where I really enjoyed the theory of, or the philosophy of existentialism, because it kind of follows that base where we allow the students to kind of go do what they want to learn, what attracts them. And on top of that, I also teach EMT and paramedic class, and I'm also a CPR instructor. So with all of that, I've had the pleasure to see how different students and different people react to the way you teach. Like in class, I'm very interactive, I'm very hands-on, I'm really okay with the videos because that puts people to sleep, as well as students. They easily get distracted at one point, unless it's an interesting video. And with that, a lot of hands-on, a lot of let's split up into groups, let's work as a team. And this is where I really encourage and I really support the philosophy of existentialism. I apologize, I have a tough time saying the word sometimes. So with that, that's my introduction into this program for your son. With existentialism, it goes back as far as the 19th and 20th century. It's not as popular due to the fact where it all plays in with the funding from the school. Like for our school, a lot of it's based on the enrollment of the students. Whereas if we were to receive money from the government, then we would have to be restricted in following their guidelines on how to teach the class. And this is why we base a lot on the enrollment, because then we have an open forum on how the children will be taught. So with that, an example is we have groups, and I apologize, I'm just looking at my notes. We have projects. We do cover all subjects, which would be reading, writing, science, math, and a foreign language. And at the end of our interview here, I will give you an outline of what I talked about. So when we start our day, we will start in groups. So here I'll just be jumping back and forth here with my notes. The students come in, they arrive for class. We immediately start with the snack and a good morning to the group. We really want to know how the students are doing, how their day was the day before. And this helps us as instructors, because if I have a kid that's not really paying attention in class as we're doing our group projects, it kind of gives me an idea as to why. And as you know, in time, we do get to know the kids with their personalities. So the morning group talk really is we get to see where the children are at, with if they got sleep, if they're eating something. That's why we have a snack, and it kind of gives us an opportunity to let them know what we're going to do that day. Also, what we try to do here is not to be repetitive with the way we do things, because we've noticed in class or in the more strictly structured schools that students don't like doing the same thing over and over again, because it causes boredom, and it's more of, I don't want to go there because I'll get bored in that class. On top of that, sitting down. As we all know, sitting down too much is the new smoking, where it's not really healthy for you. You're supposed to get up every 45 minutes or stand up. And therefore with the kids, that's why we want them involved in these groups, because we want them up and moving around, because it keeps them awake and it makes it more comfortable for them to learn. So we start with the morning sack, a good morning. We touch base with the kids, and then we split up into 4 stations. In the 4 stations, again, this is just an example of one day. We don't try to repeat the days to do the same thing. Eventually they will though, because we'll run out of different options, but it should be about a week before they see this kind of repeating again. We have 4 stations. We have a building group, where they're going to build stuff. We have an art group. We have a construct your own idea group. And then we have work with a partner group. So that'll be our 4 stations there. So then after we complete our tasks there, and then we take another break with a snack, and then we like to constantly check with the child to make sure that they are learning. So then we'll individually ask, what did you learn in your group? And then we'll see if they want to rotate to another group to learn. Your next question probably is going to be, well, how do I know my kid's not going to be doing, for example, the building group all day long? Well, again, we'll see with the kids, when they see others doing other things, they tend to follow. And we've been very fortunate here with the kids do like to move on to another subject, and they do it on themselves. Because of that, because of them wanting to go learn something, is a huge battle won with the teachers, because the traditional teaching where I'm up here teaching something at the board, you're sitting down, you're listening to me, it works for a bit, and it only works for a small percentage of the students. We're here, they're the ones that are hungering for something else to learn, and when you got that chemistry, it's amazing what these kids will learn. So that's why we do the open forum, and it gets to a point where they move on to the next subject. So the problem the question I have is, well, what if my child does not? Well, if we have a case like that, which proven here, and I'll show you the stats when you get the outline, that kids usually do move on to another subject. It's a very small percentage that just don't want to do something else, but the way we reach out to them is we encourage them to go learn something else, move on to another group, and I'm telling you, 99.9% of the time, it does work. So it's really a great style for the children to learn. So then after that, when we do the quick snack with another what'd you learn in your group, we're going to reading stations. It's 2 groups. One does a teacher-led reading station, and the other group gets to pick their own book and they read to themselves. And in the morning part, we just do English. And this, again, works out very well. After we've completed that, we go to a quick meet with the class. What did you learn in your reading group? And we allow the kids to openly say what they've learned, because we want them to not be afraid to speak publicly, and we also want other kids to hear what they've learned, and maybe that'll encourage them to, oh, he learned about spaceships and I learned about ships, well, I want to learn what he learned. So that kind of promotes that. And at that point, we do a lunch break and the children go outside and play. And just to move on here, homework. I'm sure your next question is homework. With homework, we try to do most of it in class. We